Okay, we've got our starter here again from the Hyundai generator, and I just want to quickly show you how it works. We're just to run over some of it. So firstly, this is the positive lead going to the starter. You've got the battery lead coming here, and we've got a lead from the ignition. So you turn the ignition on, it operates a coil in here, it's a plunger in here, it's attracted in by magnetism, it then connects these two together, starter turns. When the engine starts, you turn the key off, that stops that power going to this coil. The plunger then is pushed back out with a spring, this connection stops, starter stops, and during that time, when the plunger goes down, there's a lever in here which pushes this pinion up into the ring gear, and then when you turn the starter back off, the spring pushes up here, pulling that back down. So we'll just have a quick look inside here. This is what's failed, and we'll just pull this off just quickly so we can just show you what that little arm, yoke, lever, connecting the two things together looks like. So we'll just pull this out. Right, so in here we've got a little arm which goes across to here and pulls the ring gear up. So I've just pulled it, and the starter turns, starts the engine, and then when you turn the key off, the spring pushes it back out. Now here's the doofer. So that little arm, it's got a little indentation in here. Now we can get that out, and I can do that very easily. We've just got to undo this, and we're undoing this here. Just got to get did it up a little tight before. Now I've had all this apart just to check it all out. It's very simple. Don't never pull this apart because the brushes are in here and it's difficult to get the jolly thing back in. Somebody else, another one, did that, so I've never pulled it apart to there. Of course the brushes could be worn, and a worn starter. This starter brand new, of course. I'll just pull this off and I'll show you how that arm works, and then I'll show you an alternative. Now I've been promised that we've got a whole new starter and pinion on the way, so I'm not going to do any more with the starter, but I'll hold this together, pull the end off here, and it all drops out. Now what's going on? Pull this out of the way. Rubber doofer fits in here. You see how it's it just sits in here, which you've got to put it after. It's got a wee lug in here which fits in there. Sometimes a wee bit fiddly getting it in and out afterwards, but it can be done. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So this gets pulled in and out. There we are. And this little arm here does it. Fits in there. Push up, push down, push up, push down. Okay, it's got a little pivot here, which this end here clips in under there. So it's got a little T, and that goes in and out here. If I press it in and out, it pivots on the spring. It's not really a spring, it's a little pivot. Okay, that's how it works. So power goes on, plunger goes magnetism, power goes off, no magnetism, and a little spring, and I'll show you that too. This comes off here, and that comes out. So it's just a simple little plunger, and there's a spring in behind it. It should be lubricated, and guess what? It never was. And the side of this should have some lubrication on it too, and it never was. But that's beside the point. So there we are. Now, if you can't get the right one, because this goes, what can we do? Well, I went to Louise Nichols at, and I've got the invoice here, at Parts Garage in Sanson, which is a one dog town, a bit north of Wellington, near past the north I think. But anyway, she sent me a replacement. Well, very close to it. Cost $55 and a few dollars to get it. And here I have it here. Now, I'm not going to use this because I have to do some adaptation as long as I get what I'm promised. Okay, so here we've got a virtually identical, and unfortunately it's virtually identical. Unfortunately, it's for a different starter, and it's got a hole in this thing instead of a little mushroom. So what I would have to do is I'd have to make a connection. I'd have to drill a hole through here, and I got myself for a whole $1 a nice strong Allen screw couple of washers which would have to fit in there like this, and a nylock nut, and we'd have to cut this off at the appropriate length. Got the screw, picked this particular screw because it's got a solid piece in here. Now I would, if I had no alternative, drill a hole dead center in here, right through, and attach this little screw in here. Now unfortunately, I'll put it up the right way, unfortunately the pivot point isn't quite right. So we'd have to take the spring, well, this pivot out of here. We'll stick it in a vise and we'll just move, alter this bit, the radius to the point that this is bending, and it'll be a bit dicky, but you've got it one to check with, that all you're wanting to do is get this pivot point this way a little, just so it's about 4 mil, 3 mil, 2 mil probably would be enough, because you could actually, otherwise you could cut this a wee bit wider, but I think I'd fiddle around with this pivot point myself and make it fit. Once it's fitting in there correctly, because this point here is fitting underneath here, and there's plenty of room for it to be. So even if you did, well, we're going to go this way by about 2 mil, 3 mil maybe, and it's not going to make any difference at this end. And yes, in practice it's actually going to push that a wee bit higher, but it's actually got a stopping point here anyway, and then of course this piece has got a little clutch in here so that it spins, not this going around at 100 miles an hour. Once it's only turning to get up into there, and at that point it stays still, and the starter is turning this around that way. So it's quite tight in this, and this starter I've got in the situation is quite much looser. But never mind, I could utilise this. $55 New Zealand, and that's GST on top, and for anybody watching this overseas, so that's an extra 15% the government takes out of this, and that's a pretty cheap way to go. Everything else is exactly the same, all the measurements the same. The problem is, it would have been nice that this come out, but I don't know how to get that out, because this one is exactly the same size, and then I could pop that out, pop this in, and I bet this would screw out of here, and maybe this can screw out of there, and just the alternative is to screw that one out and screw this one in. But I didn't want to damage anything, because apparently I'm going to have to get a replacement and send all this old stuff back that doesn't work. But there is a cheap way around this if you don't have a supply from the supplier, Chinese Hyundai. So there we are. That's how the system works. It's a wee bit fiddly getting it back in, but it's easy enough. You put this in halfway, you put this arm in, you get it, then close it up, put the wee rubber piece in just before you close it up, make sure it's centered in the right place, then put your long bolts in, pull that up, just fits in the little hole there, lube everything up. Of course with a car you might not lube this, because there's a clutch plate in there making lots of dust, and that's going to glue everything up together. But we don't have a clutch in a generator, so this all should be in some ways liberally greased up, because it will lengthen its life but make it work properly without any wear on anything in here. So there's no need, same in here, all this can be all greased, and there's no reason to fear dust. There shouldn't be any dust in here. So unlike a car or truck or tractor with a clutch, anything with a clutch, we don't. The generator doesn't have that, so all this can be properly lubricated. Incidentally, it never was. So when the new one comes, I may just have a wee look at it and put some lubrication in. Thank you very much.